gentlemen, I would like to call to order the 333rd meeting of the City of Laurel Board of Appeals. It looks like a fairly easy agenda. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Collins, Mr. Whitley,
Present.
Mr. Lee,
Present.
Mrs. Les,
Here.
Chairwoman Shanot.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Item number 2, board members, do we have any corrections or amendments for the meeting of last month? If not, may I have a motion, please?
Make a motion that the minutes be accepted as read.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Les,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley,
I'm going to abstain since I was not at that meeting.
Chairwoman Shanot.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Item number 3, variance application number 856-14233 Greenview Drive, filed by Mr. Ribix, Ruano, I believe. Hold.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I was asking staff whether the applicant was here, and he's not here.
I don't see his name on the sign-up sheet, and I didn't know if he knew he was supposed to sign up.
And I was just suggesting that perhaps
We
we would
reverse?
pass that
That's fine.
for now to give him an opportunity to arrive
That's
and be here
perfect.
for it.
Perfect, this one looks more exciting anyway. Okay, so we're gonna skip over and go to number 7, special exception application number 853-7003 Van Dusen Road, filed by H.H. Hunt. We have a number of people here that we will get to, and may I have a reading of the record, please?
Sure, good evening. Special exception application number 853 was filed on June 8, 2015 by H.H. Hunt requesting approval to construct an 84-unit assisted living facility. The property is zoned MXT. On June 12, 2015, a request for comments was sent to the City of Laurel Department of Public Works, Department of Parks and Recreation, Laurel Police Department, and the Office of the Fire Marshal, Laurel Volunteer Fire Department, Laurel Volunteer Rescue Squad, Maryland State Highway Administration, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, Verizon, Maryland Department of Planning, Prince George's County Public Schools Department of Capital Programs, and Prince George's County Public Schools. The following responses were received. The City of Laurel Department of Parks and Recs didn't have a comment. The City of Laurel Department of Public Works had a comment on June 19th stating the driveway to access Spring Arbor is on Van Dusen Road, and this segment of Van Dusen Road is maintained by Prince George's County. The developer is responsible for any necessary permits and access approval from the county. The Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission had a comment that was submitted on June 29th, 2015, that stated the traffic study evaluated the potential impact on the following intersections deemed critical. The site only frontage is on Van Dusen Road. A master plan major collector along the property frontage. Access to the parking spaces and the overall site circulation are acceptable to staff. The results of the traffic analyses show that all of the intersections deemed critical will continue to operate adequately. Staff concurs with this finding. There are no apparent issues that will be posed by adding this degree of travel to roadways in the immediate area. The Transportation Planning section finds that the special exception use application poses no issue regarding the required special exception finding. The City of Laurel Office of the Fire Marshal submitted a comment on July 6, 2015, stating that the entrance must be provided with City of Laurel fire lane requirements and the fire hydrant layout must be changed to provide hydrants closer to the entrance. No other agencies' response were received. On June 17, 2015, a notice of the filing of the application was sent to all contiguous property owners. All return receipts were received with the exception of Wilshire Homeowners Association, 6801 Iron Bridge Lane, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised as required by law in the July 2nd, 2015 edition of the Prince George's Centennial. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals dated July 15, 2015, read as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on July 14, 2015, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. On motion by Mr. Kish, seconded by Mr. Wilson, and carried on a roll call vote by all other members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the City of Laurel Board of Appeals grant special exception application number 853 with the condition as presented in the technical staff report. That concludes the reading of the file, Madam Chairwoman. So basically, the applicant, H.H. Hunt, they're proposing to receive special exception approval. This property was annexed into the city in 2008 and was placed in the R5 zone. In March 23rd of this year, they received map amendment approval and MXT approval to build the property, but they would need to get special exception approval. And then the applicant also received final MXT site plan approval. However, it was contingent on them receiving their special exception approval by the Board of Appeals. They're seeking to construct a 84-unit facility entitled Spring Arbor at Anderson's Corner. The property will have courtyards, 94 on-site parking spaces where they're required to have 87. They will also have on-site stormwater management facilities. The mix of the development will be a mix of studios and one-bedroom units. The facility will also cater to Asian individuals that require specialty care, such as dementia or Alzheimer's disease. The total amount of residents is not to exceed 108, and the applicant plans to have a breakdown of 60 residents for assisted living and 48 for specialty care. The proposed Spring Arbor facility will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year-round. It is anticipated that the community will have 60 employees with a maximum of 28 being on site at any given time. The administrative staff is planned to work Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There are 3 shifts that they're proposing, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and then 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The access roads throughout the development will be private and will be maintained privately. As stated earlier, the frontage for the property will be on Van Dusen Road. I feel that the criteria for granting a special exception has been met and recommend that special exception application number 853 be approved with the following conditions. The applicant must obtain proper permits from the City of Laurel to construct the assisted living facility. The applicant must obtain stormwater management approval from Prince George's County. The applicant must obtain water and sewer approval from Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, better known as WSSC. The applicant must obtain any necessary access permits and traffic impact study approval from Prince George's County. The applicant shall submit a recycling plan to the Department of Public Works before the use and occupancy permit is issued. All dumpsters on site shall be enclosed within a wood or masonry enclosure with a self-latching gate, and both entrances shall meet City of Laurel fire lane requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Anything else to add right now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions, Christian, right this minute?
No, no, I don't.
Okay. All right, then on our sign-up sheet here, we have Eric DeVito. If you would like to come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Eric DeVito. I am the attorney representative for the applicant, H.H. Hunt, in this matter. My address is 1025 Thomas Jefferson Street Northwest, Suite 800 West, Washington, D.C. It's a pleasure being here before you. Thank you, Christian, for your summary of the staff report. I do have some housekeeping matters that I'd like to just get out of the way at first. Our first exhibit that we had submitted tonight, which I already provided to Sarah, is the sign affidavit. The property was appropriately, sign was posted for the requisite number of days under the code. There's an affidavit that's been provided to staff to prove that the sign is up, still up, and has not been tampered with. We also have a couple more exhibits that I would like to put on the record this evening, which I will hand out now. And then after I do that, we can walk through and I'll introduce the rest of the development team, which are these other individuals that are in the room, a lot of these other individuals in the room tonight. So as our second exhibit, which I will explain in a moment, is a package of the criteria and some aerials and some other site exhibits and some pictures and elevations of the proposed facility, which I think will be helpful in your review this evening. So I'll hand those out now.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what you have in front of you, by the way, is also going to be up on the electronic boards for those and anyone in the audience who wants to see them, or if you want a bigger picture of them. And basically, what I will, just to quickly walk through so I can explain each of them, and then we'll spend a little more time later on them if necessary, but I just want to show, just sort of walk through to show everything that's here. Obviously, the cover page. The development team, the summary of the development team is on the next page, and with me here tonight as a representative of the applicant and builder for H.H. Hunt is Mr. Bo Cook. He's obviously available to answer any questions you might have for him about their company, about the structure, about what's proposed and the operations. Ribera Land Company is the developer of the land. Land use attorney is myself. Civil engineer is Gutcheck, Little and Weber, do a lot of work in the city, and Mr. Tim Longfellow. Kevin Foster are here for GLW. They prepared a lot of the site plans and exhibits for the application. They prepared all of them that went with the special exception application. They're certified engineers, land planners. The traffic engineers, traffic concepts, Mr. Mark Keeley is here as well, available to answer any questions about the traffic approvals and the impact studies that were prepared. And the consultant is Bob Petro, who I'm assuming many of you know. After that, the next couple pages are just a restatement of the criteria that are needed to be met for the special exception. These were included in our justification statement. They've been referenced in the staff report, but I also included them in our exhibit just so we have them here as well. Those are the next 2 pages. What's shown as sheet 4 in your package is the proposed operation. Again, this was taken from our justification statement, also referenced in the staff report, but a summary of the operating criteria of the facility and how it will operate. Sheet 5 is an overview of a broad aerial of the site to show you where the Spring Harbor is planned in relation to West Side, Anderson's Corner, Conterra, the Laurel Hospital, Victoria Falls, so you get a feel for where the property is if you don't already, if you haven't been by it. Sheet 6 is just closer in aerial showing the site boundaries that are before you today, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Sheet 7 is a color illustrative of the site plan of the structure of the stormwater management facility and the parking. Then we have elevations at sheet 7. And then 9 through the rest of the publication are photos of similar, obviously that's not the structure. These are other structures that H.H. Hunt has built in other jurisdictions, so it gives you a feel for what the quality of the facility, type of uses that'll go on inside and the landscaping and the type of product that they built. So that's just a general walkthrough. The specific criteria, obviously there are 5 criteria for the board to consider in granting special exception. I'm not going to read all of this over, but basically, first criteria is harmony with the land plan. And, you know, Christian gave you some of the history. I've been involved with this project since 2008 when we annexed it into this, when we annexed these properties. I've been involved in the Anderson's Corner project and this property, which were all annexed into the city at the same time. Basically, that when they were annexed, they were placed in the R5 zone because of the 5-year hold. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that rule from the state, but basically, if you change the zoning on the annexation, the state can enact a 5-year hold. Basically, so in essence, we brought the property into the city. It made the most sense to everyone just leave the zoning as it was, wait out the 5-year hold, and then come in with the development plan. And so that's what happened. So that's why the property really has been sitting there for so long, quote unquote, sitting there, is because the 5-year hold plan played out. Anderson's Corner moved ahead, and then this just was a very compatible, made the most sense use for the property that is adjacent to Anderson's Corner. It's allowed under the MXT zone, established all the criteria of the MXT zone when the property was then rezoned ultimately from R5 to MXT, which it is now, and is an allowable zone for the special exception use. So all of that has occurred in the past multiple years, which has led us to where we are today. Filed MXT map application for this property. We filed conceptual site plan. We've actually filed a detailed site plan, which has been approved by the planning commission already. So we're sort of almost at the end of the process here in front of you. We've done a lot of work already on the project to get it to this point. A lot of detailed planning and landscape plans have been submitted. So all of the details required of the special exception are before the city and have been reviewed by staff. And we're here obviously hoping to get this special exception approval so we can finalize the project and actually start building it, hopefully, without much further delay, like I said, since we've sort of started this whole journey back in 2008. The second criteria is, how it will impact or could it adversely affect neighbors and surrounding properties. And assisted livings are known to be good neighbors, so to speak. I mean, it's a good use. It's an economic development use. It brings jobs. It provides a need. It provides a service to the city for residents who need this type of use. We believe that it will fit incredibly well with the location that we've planned for it here. If you look back on the aerial, given the surrounding uses, Victoria Falls is right next door. Conterra is going to be, 1,000 feet away. Anderson's Corner is going to be right there, west side, and a ton of residential units there. So ultimately, a lot of these residents that are coming into the city will feed right into this assisted living, which is right in their neighborhood. Which that's basically criteria point 2 and 3 that I just went over with the compatibility and a non-nuisance use. Item 4 deals with public facilities and will it not overtax the city's public facilities. The one good thing about all these developments popping up in the area, for example, as Anderson's Corner came along, all of the water and sewer infrastructure that was planned for Anderson's Corner basically was sized at a capacity to handle this project too. It's still in the process of being constructed, but it has received all WSSC approvals. It's on its way. That's more just a timing issue when it comes, and obviously this project can't get off the ground until that infrastructure is in place, but all that infrastructure is approved and has been designed in a manner to handle this. There's no issue about water and sewer. Roads, we've heard from the staff report, obviously, and from traffic concept study that the roads can handle this use, and this really is a non-intensive traffic use. There's not a lot of traffic, at least by the residents that come in and out. There will be traffic by employees, obviously, and deliveries and things of that nature, but all of the traffic impact studies show that the roads can handle it, and this will not be a big impact on the city roads. And Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know one of the conditions was achieving Prince George's County approval of the traffic, and I believe they already have signed off and approved of the traffic study, so there's no issue with Prince George's County in that respect. Storm drainage, that's one of the things I will point you to. You can tell on the exhibit that's up here, that red boundary goes beyond just the property that the assisted living facility is sitting on. It actually incorporates another parcel behind it, the Young parcel, parcel 13. And the reason it does that is because the stormwater management facility for this project is going to be located on that parcel 13, the adjacent parcel. Now, it's being sized to handle other uses that'll come along on parcel 13. But for now, that property with that red boundary that looks like an L, the bottom part of the L is actually parcel 13 and is being included because that is where the large stormwater management facility for the project is going to be located. There are bioretention facilities, smaller facilities that are going to be located adjacent to the structure or near the structure within that same parcel as the structure, but the large facility is going to be located in the back. That large green area with the square around it is the stormwater management device for this use. And like I said, it's been sized to handle uses that may come along on the other parcel as well. The last criteria basically for the special exception is, will we meet the design standards and will we meet the other specifications and standards of the city and the code? And as I just described, this project has already been through conceptual site plan and detailed site plan and landscape plans, and that clearly is being met along the way as it's gone through all of that planning process. Turning now to sheet 4 of your exhibit package is the proposed operation of the facility. As I said before, this is included in our justification statement, which was included in the application, which is already on the record, but I did want to have just a one-page summary of these criteria in case you were interested in seeing it. and I wanted to point out one thing. Our justification statement noted that there would be 88 units in this facility. That, that's been refined and changed. There's actually only 84. It's actually a less impact than what we originally imposed. So I just wanted to point out, which is there's a footnote here, that it's 84 units. That was referenced in the staff report. It's the correct number. But in case anyone was trying to tie this back to the application that we submitted, I just wanted to clarify that up.
This is
84
correct.
is the correct number. The last item E on this sheet, any special conditions or limitations proposed for adoption. I do want to spend just a few minutes on that because there are a couple special conditions that we have dealt with staff about, and staff has approved, but I want to make it known to the board as well. One of the issues, and if you could go to the sheet, that sheet right there, please. The area along Van Dusen Road, if you could focus on the area parallel to Van Dusen Road, there are some parking spaces. They're hard to see in this graphic because they're sort of underneath the tree line. There's a couple parallel spaces on the top part and then a few spaces on either side of the entrance that border Van Dusen Road. Those are within the 20-foot landscape buffer, just in that area along Van Dusen Road. And that's so the applicant can get more parking spaces. They're already meeting the minimum parking spaces requirement, but parking is, you can never have too much parking in some instances, in many instances. So they requested from staff and designed extra parking within that buffer just along Van Dusen Road. Staff has approved. We'd like that acknowledged by the board as well in any approval, just to ensure that that condition is allowable, that parking will operate within the buffer. The condition obviously is that we can still put landscaping within the buffer, which as this exhibit shows we can and we will. We just want to encroach on that buffer a little bit to add a few more parking spaces. The other condition that we were asking approval for, and we dealt with staff on, is some bioretention facilities within the landscape buffer as well. There's a couple micro bioretention facilities for stormwater management. If you're familiar with the new state regulations, they're not so new anymore, but new compared to 10 years ago, the push is really towards multiple smaller facilities. So to do that and to get the stormwater management design to the point where it made the most sense, some of it needed to be within, again, that 20-foot landscape buffer. And again, that's a bit of an irony because these new bioretention facilities are in essence landscaping. They will be landscaped, they would be planted, it'll be ornamental, they will look just like landscaping, but you need approval and a modification in essence to put this structure inside the landscaping buffer, which is what the applicant has asked for from staff. Staff has approved, and again, that's just something we'd also like recognized in the special exception approval, that condition or that modification to the existing standards is something that's part of this plan.
Can you just define for me a microbiome retention device, please?
I can't. I think Tim Longfellow can if you'd like to come up here.
I'm sorry, it's the first time I've seen that phrase.
And this is Tim Longfellow from GLW, who's the engineer of the project.
If you would be kind enough, please.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Longfellow, Goodchick, Little and Weber, 3909 National Drive, Burtonsville. Microbiome retentions are basically just small depressions. They're generally about 18 inches deep. They're just graded. You're probably familiar with the old style stormwater management ponds that go 4 to 6 feet deep. It's the same style except they only go about 18 inches deep. The state regulations allow you to have water ponding in them up to 12 inches, and then they require some what they call freeboard, that extra 6 inches in depth at the surface. So they're generally dry facilities. They're heavily landscaped, like Eric mentioned. And what they're comprised of is a thin mulch layer at the top, landscaping, and then below that there's some special bioretention planting mix that is used, and that ranges anywhere from 2 to 4 feet in depth, and that varies from facility to facility depending on what the stormwater management goals are for that. Below that there's a sand layer of 6 inches, and then there's a gravel layer underneath of that with a perforated PVC pipe that you see at Lowe's or Home Depot that just allows that water to filter through the material and then drain out through the structure. Hopefully you get some infiltration in there, but it's not required of that facility. It can drain back into the regular storm drain structure.
So the phrase device is what throws me off, because it's really not a device.
People use device or facility.
Or facility, it's really not, I mean, it's an underground type of facility.
All of the material is underground.
Below ground.
That's correct.
So there's nothing visually there.
So visually, you'll see a small depression. You'll see a storm drain structure. in case you get a larger storm. These facilities are designed to basically treat the storms that you would get 90% of the time. You know, they're the smaller, quick-hitting storms. They're not designed for the type of storms that are going to basically run you inside for a couple of days, your 10-year storms and 100-year storms. But we have to convey that water once it gets to it. So you do see some storm drain inlets in those structures. Right. So it's a little, you know, small, typically about a 4 foot by 4 foot concrete structure. You would see.
So it is a 4, okay, all right.
It's a little storm drain structure, typically a concrete or brick structure. You'd see a metal grate at the top to take any overflows from it. And typically you'll see some little openings in the side to drain the typical storm that those facilities would see.
I have a much better picture now, thank you.
I have a question while you're up. Can you describe the large stormwater management device as well?
As far as?
Is it a pond? Is it what?
Oh, so that facility there, it's a combination of a submerged gravel wetland, which is an environmental site design practice that the state acknowledges for their new environmental site design guidelines. In addition, because there's some downstream flooding issues at Route 1, this whole drainage area upstream of that is required to provide 100-year quantity control management. So that's also provided in that facility. And as Eric mentioned, it'll be over-designed initially for this project in anticipation of some potential future development that's, you know, that may or may not come as well. So it serves a dual purpose there.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And the only thing I wanted to last point out on this proposed operation sheet, this sheet for the exhibit patch, that actually is a requirement of us under the Laurel Code to propose to tell you what the operational criteria would be. That's another reason why it's here, and another reason why I'm referencing it is because I just wanted to, obviously for the record, show and indicate that we've met the criteria of the Laurel Code for the operating aspects of the facility. With that, I do have one other exhibit I would like to pass out, which would be, I guess, our third exhibit, or applicant's exhibit C, which we've already provided to the mayor and city council. We've provided to the planning commission, so we're going to provide it to you too, which is an initial marketing study memorandum, which gives you the background on it. What it does is it compares the proposed facility to other assisted living facilities that are existing in and around the area. You know, there's one other one in the Laurel area, but there are others, you know, within the vicinity. And so this shows you, basically, this marketing study that I'm going to hand out shows you that there is a need for an assisted living facility in this location. It's projected to fill a need that you presently have. It's projected to be a good location for it. And this just shows you how this study shows you sort of how it stacks up, some of the costs involved in the various facilities that are already out there, and how this measures against it. So I would like all of you to have that, and if you have any questions about that, Mr. Cook probably would be the best person from H.H. Hunt to answer them, but I'll pass that out now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You already have this.
I think it was, yeah. Unless it's not there.
No. It's the same. You already have it.
There sure is.
With that, I don't have any other formal presentation I would like to make as part of our applicant's presentation. Obviously, we're all here. We're all available for any additional questions you have. And if not, I will go ahead and sit down.
All right, board members?
I'd just like to make a comment, not a question, but I think it's actually genius that you have it right across the street from the Laurel Regional Hospital. Had you all thought about inter-facility transport agreement with Laurel Hospital? So that instead of having to call 911, you might have an ambulance available already in the inter-facility agreement, excuse me. So.
That's a little beyond my expertise in this. I don't know, Mr. Cook, if you could possibly.
Just a curiosity question,
Yeah.
that's all. All right.
Good evening. My name is Bo Cook with H.H. Hunt. My address is 1401 Sunday Drive, Suite 109, Raleigh, North Carolina. To answer your question, we have transportation that we can provide, and we do provide for the residents that live there. In some instances, we can do some transport, but typically, if it's an emergency, we do have to call the ambulance. And I think it's a little premature. I think there'll be negotiations with the hospital to try to work out some arrangement. That would come kind of at a later date.
Well,
Thank
while
you,
you're
Lisa,
up-
for thinking of it.
Yeah, while you're up, well, how long will the construction take from beginning to end, approximately?
We're anticipating starting in the spring of next year.
Completion.
And we would hope to open the following fall. So it's
18 months?
18 months, 16 to 18 months.
Is H.H. Hunt actually going to manage the facility?
We are the owners and managers.
And do you have any other facilities in the region?
We just opened one in Severna Park
Okay,
within the last month.
thank you.
But you have quite a few in other states, don't you?
We do up in Northern Virginia. We have quite a few. We do have a lot in North Carolina. We have several more planned around the Maryland area that'll probably start within the next 6 months.
Thank you. Any more questions, gentlemen, ladies? No? Okay. Well, I think you've done a lovely job of presenting this to us. It looks like you crossed all your i's and your t's and what have you. With the city and the county, everything seems to be rolling along very nicely. So may I have a comment or a motion from the board, please?
I make a motion that we approve grant the special exception, application number 853, with all the comments as put on the record.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second?
There we go.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Whitley?
Yes.
Mrs. Les? Yes. Chairwoman Chanot?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It looks like a good project.
Yes. Welcome
Should
to
be
the
an
city.
asset to the community.
Madam Chair,
What?
we'll need to have a vote on the resolution as well.
Do we have the resolution up here?
I
We do?
didn't see it.
It's the revised one?
The revised resolution. Oh, I didn't have that one. I had the one for,
I have it.
okay.
I don't have that one either.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right.
No, this
a
is for
different one.
Ribix.
Yeah, we don't have
This is
the-
not, this is Ribix. This is the one we have here. We don't have a revised on this one.
The one you have is, oh, okay, yeah, but the one in your packet, you have one in your packet for Spring Arbor.
Anybody see it? I don't see it.
Yeah.
You have it?
Okay. You're referring to this document here?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, all right.
it's resolution 15-09-BOA.
Yes, I have it.
Okay, I don't have it. All right, so we need to have a motion to approve the resolution 1509-BOA.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 1509-BOA.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley,
Yes.
Mrs. Les, Chairwoman Chanot,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. I have that. Oh, I do, it's at the very bottom, I apologize. Here it is, very bottom. No, I found it then. Okay. Okay, so, would you like to say something?
Oh, just
No?
for the next case.
Just what? Oh, all right,
Yes.
all right.
Yes, he's the applicant's here.
Okay, fine, good. We are going to go back to the variance application number 852 at 14233 Greenview Drive, filed by Ribix Ruano. May we have a reading of the record, please?
Yes. This is variance application number 852, filed on June 8, 2015 by Ribix Ruano for a 12-feet variance from the required 12 feet setback along the north property line at 14233 Greenview Drive, Laurel, Maryland, 20708, zoned PUDE, Plan Unit Development Existing. Some history on this. The property was purchased where it already had the patio and walkway in the setback. After the property was purchased, the material was crumbling, so the applicant replaced it. Then the applicant constructed a gazebo in the setback. There was no permits issued before or after the applicant had purchased the property. Under date of June 11, 2015, a letter asking for comments was sent to the City of Laurel Police Department, Office of the Fire Marshal, Public Works and Parks and Recreation, and Maryland Office of Planning. The following responses were received and have been made a part of the official record. Laurel Department of Parks and Recreation, June 11, 2015, no comment. Laurel Office of the Fire Marshal, June 12, 2015, no comment. Laurel Police Department, dated June 15, 2015, no comment. Laurel Department of Public Works, June 15, 2015, no comment. No responses were received from any other agency. Under date of June 15, 2015, a letter advising on this public hearing was sent by certified mail to the applicant, the property owner, and all contiguous property owners. All return receipts were received with the exception of the Patuxent Glen Homeowners Association, Incorporated, P.O. Box 3371, Laurel, Maryland, 20709. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the July 2nd, 2015 issue of the Prince George's Sentinel. At the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant submitted a letter to the commission with support from the surrounding property owners. He had also submitted with his application a letter of support from the north neighbor, which is adjacent to the gazebo. There was no phone calls to me before the Planning Commission meeting with positive or negative comment. At the meeting, there was no one there to speak for or against the case from the neighborhood. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals dated July 15, 2015 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on July 14, 2015, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application on motion by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Welford, carried on a roll call vote by all members present. The Planning Commission recommended that the City of Laurel Board of Appeals deny variance application number 852 as presented in the technical staff report. It did not meet the criteria for variance, and to speak on that, the property is rectangular in shape. The property is not exceptional in narrowness, shallowness, or shape. The property is flat. It does not have any exceptional topographic condition. The strict application of these regulations would not result in peculiar or unusual practical difficulties to or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner because the single-family use of the property may continue without the requested variance. Second, since as stated in one above, the property does not have any exceptional conditions to overcome, the requested variance is not necessary at all and is therefore not the minimum necessary. Third, the variance cannot be granted without substantial impairment to the intent, purpose, and integrity to the 12 feet north side yard setback established through the PUDE Plan Unit Development Existing Zoning District, as granting the variance to allow the gazebo would result in absolutely no side yard setback on the north side of the property. Fourth, the variance will be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of adjoining or neighboring properties by significantly reducing the space between dwellings. After the Planning Commission meeting, a city worker who used to live in this neighborhood requested a copy of the staff report so that she could forward it to an HOA officer, and that was forwarded to the city worker who forwarded it on to the HOA. I still did not receive any response for or against the variance tonight before tonight's meeting. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that a zoning sign has been placed on the subject property and has remained and shall remain until a decision is reached by the Board of Appeals. That concludes the reading of the file, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ruano, would you like to come up to the podium and give us your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Ribix Ruano, and I live in 14233 Greenview Drive. And I believe it's my second time in here. I'm just trying to be simple and say something that you understand. And
So when you bought the property in 2006, it had a patio type area that you improved on,
yeah,
patio and driveway.
it was just the patio. The driveway was something like just gravel and some pieces of blackstone, just like steps.
Mm-hmm.
And I just reset the flagstone that used to be on the patio. And then when I see my patio, so my wife liked it, so I decided to do the same on the walkway all the way to the driveway.
Were you aware at any time that you maybe should have approached the city for permitting, or did anybody in the homeowners association bring it to your attention?
No, to be honest, no. And I didn't think about it. If something like that could happen, I never, do that gazebo.
So you did that a number of years ago, and then when did you build the gazebo exactly?
The gazebo, I built it, it's not even a year. It's kind of brand new. I used to have a gazebo like, it's a typical gazebo that you can buy any place. But,
So you had a gazebo, yeah, I did say you had a gazebo back there before. Right.
I used to have one, but one of the storms that we had a couple of years ago, my gazebo went out, it was hanging on the trees in the back.
I had a hot tub that did that.
Yeah, and then my wife wanted something like, I used to have a shade, something there, but I was thinking myself, I'm trying to build something different. I'm just trying to surprise her. And to be honest, when I started building that, I never knew I was going to build something like that. And I started building stronger, but I went a little bit high. And I just wanted to put something to cover the top, nothing solid that I have. But then I didn't see a happy face on my wife. And she was saying something like, she told to my sister-in-law that we're gonna take care of chickens now because we got a place to hide them. And it looked like they were making fun of me. And then I started breaking my head again and said, I'm gonna improve what I have. And that's why, I covered the two sides that you can see, the front and back. And I decided to put, the solid, the roofing. And, well, I had to make the column stronger. And finally, keep working in that, but I never, think about that I needed to have a permit.
How long did it take you to build it?
About 3 months or so.
3 months?
Because I do it step by step.
Yeah.
Thinking about what next, what I can do. And
During that time, did anybody, the homeowners association, anybody from the city, anybody at all come by and say, what are you doing?
Nothing. I couldn't stop at that time and, find out more. And I was thinking about my neighbor. But, she was the first one to step to me and said she wanted to build something like that. Said, well, at least she's happy with that because I was content that she was going to say something because I was really close to the property. But that's my only concern at the time. And then everybody was crossing there. They stopped and said, what I was building was so beautiful. So, I was started, doing something more. And, I really forgot about that. I really needed a permit for that. I thought the permit was needed only to build something like an addition or make a whole improvement, something like that. To be honest, it was one of my biggest mistakes in my life.
How long has it been since you completed it? When did you finish it?
I think I finished it in February.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Questions?
Yes. The most important question, does your wife like it now?
she's so happy with it. I mean, she enjoys it. There is, I mean, you can see it. I mean, there is, everybody see it, says, how did you do that? It's unique because every single part is unique. I created myself.
So I think I understand what happened.
A couple of questions for staff. What HOA is this development, or is this house a part of?
It's Patuxent Glen Homeowners Association.
Okay. And if the variance was approved, how would we go about making sure the structure is engineered, is built sound, is a sound structure? Is that something that would be done, that he would be required to do after an approval?
You would have to provide to the department a certification from a registered engineer that it is built to standards and will not blow away.
Okay, and that would that be a condition of approval, or is that something?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think we probably have some contention then with the original decision. I personally do, from the board. I don't feel as though Mr. Ruano should be responsible for taking this down.
Neither do I.
I think if the association didn't notice it, if the city didn't notice it, and I understand everybody does permits, but not everybody does them. I did the same thing in the backyard with the hot tub deck. And I've been on the board for 20-some years. But anyway, how can we resolve this amicably? Staff? Because I think the majority of this board is in favor of allowing Mr. Ruano to keep his structure. The neighbors, the adjacent neighbor is not complaining. No one came to any of the meetings to complain. The association has not said anything. It does not look like it's a flyaway. It's an attractive creation. So how do we work this?
Staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe that there's any action that the applicant can take that will correct the violation. So it requires a 12-foot setback on that north side of the property, and there is no setback whatsoever. So the entire required setback is taken up. From a legal perspective, I would direct your attention to the criteria for approval of a variance and take a look at what the applicant has to prove in order to approve it, and perhaps go from there. But again, as to whether there's any compromise or there's something you can do, staff, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the questions I asked staff when I got up and walked over there. You know, is there anything we can do if the gazebo were to be moved in the back of the yard or something to that effect? Could they do that? The problem still remains with what lays on the ground still takes up the entire setback. So it's still problematic.
But if it's not a solid structure, I mean, this is an open structure. This is not a solid house or shed or what have you that's behind there that's blocking anybody's view, obstructing anything, so that you can see and go through it. So there should be some consideration, I would think, that there is a setback still there. I mean, in my logic, for some reason, I think that.
Madam Chair, I agree, and I have a comment I'd like to.
Oh, please.
I drove by there just to make sure that I saw what we were going to discuss. And I agree with you. My concern is, even if the board voted not to accept the denial, what does that mean? Because I hear you, but I'm of the mind too that are we making a mountain out of a molehill? And that's just my question. I don't know that I have the answer to that. But I put myself in your hot tub situation and Mr. Ruano's gazebo situation. And yes, there's a balance here, and do we want to make one of our residents tear it down? It looks like a pretty solid structure. And I did go by there, and it is a walkthrough, so it's not blocking anything. So that's where I stand.
That's what I'm saying, that some of the setback is actually really there. So I know you are considering it a structure, but the openness, what I would think, would take into some consideration, because I'm in the same favor of not approving the denial. Right, not approving the denial.
Well, as soon as you put a roof on it, it's considered an accessory structure, and that's where you run into the setback issue. We have in the past allowed driveways in the side yards, but there again, there's no roof or any structure above it. Even though it encroaches into the setback, most of the time they use pervious pavers or some type of material that doesn't affect the percolation of the rainwater. But it is considered an accessory structure under the code, even though there are no walls to it. When you put the roof on it, that's when it becomes the structure that's being addressed here.
Okay, so that's the definition, because it has a roof.
Yes.
It's a structure.
If you have a deck on the back of a house, it's just a deck. If you put a roof on it, then it's an extension of the house.
But if I have a separate gazebo, that's just a separate gazebo and all one piece.
It would be a separate gazebo accessory structure if you stuck it in the back.
Okay. I'm not sure how we are gonna do this.
Well, you were getting ready to say something. That's a good point.
I'm sorry, excuse me, 1 second.
I agree with you.
I'm losing something. Okay, do you want to do that?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, so,
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
yes, please.
I move that we approve variance application and detailed site plan and landscape plan 852 for the property at 14233 Greenview Drive, with the condition that the homeowner has to get certification from a licensed engineer that the structure is fundamentally sound.
May I have a second?
Second. You beat me to the punch.
Mr. Whitley,
I vote yes.
Mrs. Les,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Chairwoman Chanot,
Yes.
motion carries.
Now, we didn't ask you, Mr. Hahn. You'll have to get an engineer's report that says the structure is safe.
I
Is
will
that,
definitely do
is that capable of doing it? Yes.
that. Not a problem. I will do
Can
that.
we set a time limit on that we need within the next 30 days?
I would request that be part of the motion, that it be within 30 days, and you also obtain a building permit from the department.
My only I would offer that amendment, but my only question is, what happens if this goes circle? He does what, Mr. Ruano, I don't want to say he, does what's requested, and then he goes to get the building permit, and they say, we told you no once, we're going to tell you no again.
No, that won't happen.
Okay.
Okay, so if that's our understanding, we'll make that part of the motion indeed. That it's necessary for you to, one, get an engineer's report for its safety. That's reasonable. And two, in order to go along with the city's recommendations and rules, that you apply for a permit. After the fact, I know. But then it's on file with the record that you did apply for a permit, so you won't have any issues. And there will be no repercussions on that.
Okay, no problem. So,
Keep it and you won't have to have any issues.
how long do I need to approve get the engineer report?
30 days.
30 days.
I was gonna talk,
Uh,
I'm here for your permit to accept the to no water.
Madam Council, do we need to do another motion and vote
For the
for the amendment?
Yes, yes, you do. So you made a motion, seconded, you voted on it. Now,
I'll
you
accept the
can't
friendly,
just,
I'll accept the friendly amendment.
thank you.
Then I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that Mr. Ruano gets the certified engineer to say the structure is sound within 30 days and also gets the building permit from the city of Laurel within 30 days.
I'll second the motion.
The amendment.
I mean, the amendment.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley,
Yes.
Mrs. Les, Chairwoman Shannat, motion carries.
Now, Madam Chair, members of the board, I do want to say the next thing you would normally do is enact the resolution. However, the resolution is not written
Yes.
as you've approved. So we'll have to bring that back to you at your next meeting. So you will not be able to approve the resolution tonight.
Okay, I think we've done that in the past sometimes, yeah. That's all right.
We'll have 30 days from the resolution to comply with the conditions.
So Sarah's asking me when the 30 days runs. The 30 days would run from the time of your written approval, so the date of the resolution.
So then, actually, we won't sign the resolution for another month, so actually it gives you 60 days, if I'm not mistaken, to get it all done. So you have 60 days
But
to
don't
get it
wait.
done. But,
Yeah, no, yeah. no.
okay,
That would be more than enough for me.
okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, so that should do it then. All right, sir?
Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for the
Oh,
comment.
no.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
lesson for me, and I will never.
Homeowners aren't
do without
perfect.
shooting.
Well, you'd think somebody would have said something, huh? All right, thank you very much. You have a
All right, you
good
too.
evening too. Is there anything else that we need to discuss or would like to discuss or have questions about? No? Okay, well then we will adjourn the meeting at 8 o'clock. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.